8-hour sourdough bread, let's go. Guys, it does not have to take 2 days to make sourdough bread, and I'm gonna show you how. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna need an active bubbly starter at its peak and a digital scale. Now this recipe will make 2 loaves, and I will include the measurements. So you wanna put your bowl on the scale and make sure it's zeroed out. You're gonna add 250 grams of active starter. Now that we've added our starter, you're gonna zero out your scale and you're gonna add 725 grams of warm filtered water. You do wanna make sure that it's really warm because it will jumpstart the process so we can make sure we have our bread in 8 hours. So 725 grams of water. Go ahead and take your bowl off the scale, and as you can see, that starter is floating and it is ready to bake with. And then take your bread whisk or your hands and give it a good mix. Okay, we're gonna mix. It is okay for there to be some floating chunks of starter. That's totally normal. You're gonna wanna put your bowl back on the scale and make sure it's zeroed out. It's time for our salt, 25 grams. There we go. Then you're gonna make sure you zero out your scale, and then we're gonna add our flour. All-purpose or bread flour is totally fine. Just make sure it's unbleached, 1,000 grams. Okay, then you're gonna take it off the scale and you're gonna give it a good mix. You can use your bread whisk, but I prefer using my hand for this part, and yes, they are clean. Just be careful because flour can fly everywhere. You just wanna mix it until you no longer feel chunks of flour and it turns into a shaggy dough. This can take a couple minutes. Ooh, I'm getting a workout. We are good at mix, and I'm gonna clean off my hand with a bench scraper. Then you're gonna scrape down your sides, and that's it. You're gonna put a plate on top or a kitchen towel, and you're gonna let it sit on your counter for 1 hour. Okay, it's been an hour, so we're on to our first set of stretch and folds. This is what your dough will look like. It'll still look shaggy on the top, just a little bit more rested. So for a stretch and fold is you're going to take one side and you're gonna pull up till it starts to resist and fold it over. Turn your bowl, take some more, pull up, fold over. This builds the gluten strands and strengthens your dough. So just the very first set of stretch and folds, I like to go around and do this about 10 times just to get a head start on strengthening the dough. Okay, so this is the first set of stretch and folds. We're gonna do 3 more for a total of 4 sets of stretch and folds. You want to do them every 30 minutes. So just put your plate or towel back on and let it rest on the counter for another 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes, so let's do our second round of stretch and folds. You just wanna grab this side, pull up till it starts to resist, and fold over. You will notice that with each set of stretch and folds, your dough gets a lot stronger, less sticky, and way easier to work with. And that's it. Cover it up, let it sit on the counter, and then in 30 minutes, we'll come back and do our third set of stretch and folds. All right, it's been 30 minutes. So again, you just wanna take the side, pull up till it starts to resist, fold down. We're gonna do this 4 times. And that's it. Pop the top back on. We'll come back in 30 minutes and do our final set of stretch and folds. Final set of stretch and folds. Okay, so before I do it though, I want you to see there are lots of bubbles forming. It is becoming a lot more active. The dough is getting stronger. So by this 4th set, the dough is gonna be very strong. It's gonna resist. It's gonna be a lot easier to do this. As you can see, it's trying to come out of the bowl every time I pull it up. Okay, so now that we're finished with our stretch and folds, we're gonna cover this up and let it sit on the counter to bulk ferment for about 2 hours. We don't need the dough to double, but you wanna see about a 50 to 75% rise. And that's it. I'll see you in 2 hours. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours and 15 minutes that it's been bulk fermenting on the counter. And as you can see, it has grown significantly. So this is when you know your dough is ready to be shaped. So clearly it has grown significantly in size. I'd say about 75%. It's jiggly when you wiggle the bowl like Jell-O. There's bubbles forming all along the sides and the top. This dough is well fermented and ready to shape. So I'm gonna try to do this quick because my 4 kids are running around the house. I'm gonna add a little bit of flour to my surface. Pour your dough out onto your surface. And it should come out pretty clean when it's ready to shape. You don't need to pull on it, let it fall out naturally, and there you go. That came out pretty darn clean. So remember, this is 2 loaves, so you're just gonna cut it down the middle in half. No need to weigh out the dough, you can just eyeball it. Okay, there we go. So we're gonna do 2 shapes. So just take one of your loaves and you're gonna stretch it out. Look at all those bubbles. And you're gonna take one side and you're gonna fold it over. Then you're gonna take the other side, fold over, and then you're just gonna roll it up. This is very easy. Once you roll it up, you're gonna shape it into that nice round ball. Out, pull in. You're creating tension on the surface of the dough. Out, in, and you're tucking in the underside. So out, pull in, tucking in the underside. This doesn't have to be perfect, it's just the first shape. Look at all these bubbles. So that's pretty darn good for the first shape. We're just gonna let this rest on the counter for 20 minutes and then we're gonna come back and do our final shape. Okay, so these bad boys have been resting for 20 minutes. So for the final shape, you wanna turn over your dough and then you wanna do the same thing we did before. You wanna stretch it out, but be way more gentle the second time around because it remembers that first shape and it's gonna resist. One side over, other side over, same thing. You're gonna roll it up into shape into that beautiful round ball. So out, in, tucking in the underside. And you'll notice with the final shape, it is way more smooth, not sticky at all, and it's ready to go in the Banneton. Also, I didn't say this in the beginning. We started at about 11:30 a.m. It is now 5:30, so it's only been 6 hours, and we only have 2 more hours until we can bake. You're gonna take your bench scraper, and you're gonna flip it over into your banneton. I know some people stitch it up, I don't, doesn't make a difference, and that's it. You're gonna cover it up with a kitchen towel, or I use these plastic shower caps. They're linked to my Amazon storefront in my bio. And we're gonna stick these in the fridge to proof for 2 hours, and then it's time to score and bake. Okay, it's been 2 hours, which means it's time to score and bake. These have been in the fridge proofing. We're just gonna turn it over onto our parchment paper, give her a good amount of flour so we can see our design when we score. We're gonna go real simple on this one. And that's done. Put it right on there. You know what? Valentine's Day is coming up, so we're gonna do a heart. Okay, so scoring's done. The Dutch ovens have been in a 500-degree preheated oven for about 20 minutes. 500 degrees for 35 minutes, and then we're gonna take the tops off and drop it to 425 for another 10 minutes. Guys, these, beautiful. You do not need to waste 2 days making sourdough bread. Oh, she's crunchy and beautiful. And there you have it, 8-hour sourdough bread.